The boy gasped and put his hand on the wall. He knew it would be very difficult to catch up with a girl who was shorter than him and had shorter legs. Oh, no. What the hell are you? The boy's yellow eyes were full of surprise and curiosity. That's a rude and random question. What do you want to ask? Isla asked in a stunned voice. The boy scratched his cheek with an embarrassed expression, as if he had not understood what he had said. Oh, I'm sorry, but I have never seen such a perfect falling technique in my life. How did you do it? The sight of a little girl, dressed in a white ruffled and lace one-piece pajama under a black robe, jumping from a high ceiling and landing softly, was something he couldn't help but feel awestruck by. At the unexpected question, Isla blinked slowly. It wasn't a difficult question to answer. I don't know. The boy's expression turned into disappointment as Isla thought for a second before speaking coldly. That sullen appearance somehow made her feel like she had made a big mistake. Maybe that's why. Although she was irritated and in an annoying situation, she did something she normally wouldn't do. It is dangerous for a child to walk alone at this time of night. So please come back. The young man was confused when Isla spoke. He was younger, he said. Although the young man was quite tall, his face gave the impression of being 4 or 13 years old. Isla was actually older than him if she looked at herself. However, he was 12 years old and Isla had no idea that 18 wasn't that old of an age. Yeah. I see that, yes. At that moment, when the boy responded in confusion, Isla had the opportunity to outwit him. It was because a man who seemed to be looking for the boy ran from the other side of the alley and looked back at him. No, teacher. Isla took the opportunity when the boy turned his head in the direction where the sound was coming from and quickly jumped onto the fence. Climbing from the wall to the ceiling was no easy task. What are you doing here? Why do you keep going out at night without us knowing? If something happens, we won't be able to save our lives. You already know it. No, that's... What kind of child is here? As soon as he found it, the boy noticed the servant scolding him and turned his head towards where Isla had been a moment ago. But there was no one there, because Isla was already hiding on the roof and watching the funny scene. A child? What kind of child are you talking about? Oh? Did you see a ghost? Thinking of his disappearance as suddenly as it had appeared, the boy lazily blinked his golden eyes and made a silly expression. It was very nice to see that stupid expression, but Isla turned her head. Because he couldn't afford to worry about it right now. Isla looked towards the alley across the street to find her original purpose. Looks like Cloud is still there. Even though she was hidden in the darkness, she could still feel Cloud's presence. Like his master, Cloud was also good at hiding his presence, but he couldn't avoid Isla's keen senses. There were ups and downs, but he gathered his mental power and focused. This was so that from now on not even the slightest movement of what the Cloud was doing would be missed. However, the conversation coming from behind kept interrupting his concentration. Enough of this nonsense and come back quickly. Why do you keep sneaking out every night? What nonsense. Ruthless. Yes, yes. I have committed a mortal sin. There was no parody. Finally, he lost his concentration and turned his head slightly. He saw the servant grabbing the boy by the back of his neck and dragging him away. Thanks to this, the hood that covered the child's head was removed. The hair that was hidden was black and fine in texture. Just like the hair of his strange father, Roderick. Not only does he remind me of Byron. She lay on the roof, resting her chin on her chin as she watched the scene and smiled innocently. Although he looked like Byron and interfered with his work, it was because he didn't dislike the boy for some reason. Well, I won't have to see that kid again. That was what he thought at that moment. He saw it once and said it was meant to be. It was stupid. When the boy was dragged away by the servant and completely disappeared, Isla was able to refocus her mind on Cloud. Since they were hidden deep in an alley, she knew they were there, but she couldn't tell what they were doing. The original plan was to move to the building across the street. Due to the sudden meeting, there was a significant delay in time. Isla clicked her tongue and skipped towards the alley where she had encountered the boy. Fortunately, this time no one suddenly appeared. She hid in the alley, looking for an opportunity, and quickly crossed the street. He easily climbed the wall and hid on top of the building again, sticking his head out and looking down the alley. Cloud was staring across the intersection, unaware that she was watching him. "What are you looking at?" He followed Cloud's gaze and looked to the other side. At the end of his gaze was a beautiful building surrounded by a high wall. "Are you looking at that building?" Isla frowned and looked at the building carefully. He noticed that there were heavily armed knights standing guard in front of the wall of the building. As expected, my prediction was correct. The person who made the security of this city so tight. He's following that guy. Who is that person? I have a feeling it must be young Lion himself, or at least someone related to him. It wouldn't be difficult to find out his identity and status. It was not such a noisy procession that even ordinary passers-by would hear about it and surely could find some clue. But he felt he should go to sleep. He wasted precious time by having a useless conversation with the boy. She didn't know if she would ever have time to go out at night like today in this city again, but even if she got out of here, she wouldn't have to worry about the weather. There were many more opportunities in the future, because he would have to move many more times in search of that unknown person. Thinking like this, Isla returned the way she had come, leaving behind the foolish Cloud who was still alert to the surroundings without noticing her presence. And this time not a single mouse found her. When he returned to the inn room, Laura was still fast asleep, leaning against the chair. That's how it would have been. There was still a long time for the medicine to wear off. Isla shook the smell of the wind from her cloak and hung it back on the coat rack. Then he lay down on the bed and fell asleep as if nothing had happened, as if he had slept so well all night. The next morning, as expected, Laura did not tell anyone that she had fallen asleep for fear of being scolded. He even blatantly lied to her, telling her that he watched her sleep all night. Although Isla was the one who put Laura to sleep. Isla laughed at Laura to herself and pretended not to notice, saying that she was fast asleep and didn't even know she was being watched. That way, she wouldn't be able to put Laura to sleep every night and move around freely. Of course, I couldn't do that every night. The next day, Capella watched her all night and the next day she left Grunfeld and headed to the next town. Plus, no matter how young Laura was, it was clear that if she was put to sleep every day, she would be suspected. If you used it repeatedly, you would develop a tolerance to the sleeping pill, so you had to use it sparingly. That's why Isla went out at night again a week after her first outing. It was a few days after they had arrived in their second city, Barhate. Thanks to his calm and accommodating demeanor, Laura had no suspicions. This time, Isla mindlessly drank the water to which she had secretly added sleeping pills and soon fell asleep. After confirming that Laura was fast asleep, Isla opened the window and looked outside. There was no need to follow Cloud today. She only planned to walk around the area and find out who was visiting the city at that time. That is until he sees Cloud wearing a mask and walking out carefully. Let's chase him. If we follow the author, we will save ourselves some problems. Even if he wanted to find out information, it would be faster if he got closer to the target. If I just tried to find out, I could find out where it is. There was no need to go through so much trouble and leave a guide behind. If she approached, passers-by might start whispering like before and tell her what kind of wonderful person was visiting her. If that happened, it was a chance for her to blow her nose without even touching it. Even today, Cloud walked around, very cautious of his surroundings, so that no one would discover his destination. He didn't seem to notice at all that there were eyes looking down at him from above. She followed Cloud like that. Arriving in front of a beautiful mansion surrounded by high walls like before, he walked and looked around the building.